He is a tax consultant. Shri S.N. Panigrahi, a versatile practitioner, an international consultant, corporate trainer, mentor, and author. He has diverse experience and expertise in project management, contract management, lean project management, supply chain management, procurement, strategic sourcing, global sourcing, logistics, exports and imports, quality, 5S, Kaizen, ZED, Six Sigma, indirect taxes, GST, etc. He has over 30 years of experience in techno-commercial, served in large corporate, involved in mega projects from inception to execution and operation. His last assignment was in HSIL Limited as a Vice President Commercial. He authored over 500 articles published in various journals and periodicals and done 150 workshops globally, including PMP, FI, DIC, and Lean Six Sigma. Now, I take this privilege to invite you, sir, in this session.
Yeah.
Over to you, sir.
Yeah.
I kindly request you to start the session.
Yeah. Good morning. Good morning to all of you.
Sir, I request you to switch on your camera so that everybody can see you.
Now you are able to see?
No, we can't see you, sir.
Now?
No, sir. We can't see you.
Oh, why it is not happening? This webcam I am starting, but
Okay, sure, sir. You can share your slide.
Slide is okay. It is visible.
No, slide is not visible,
Now?
sir. You have to share the slide.
Now.
No, sir. We can't see the slide now.
Slide also I have made this one.
Yes.
Now you able to see the slide?
Yes. Now we can see it. Yes.
Yeah. And voice
Just
also.
put it in the slideshow, sir. Just put it in the slideshow
I'll
mode.
I'll put. Not to worry about.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
So good morning to all of you. Good morning. On behalf of ILIP, I am S.N. Panigrahi here to share some thoughts on taxation and other statutory comprehensions. Means only taxes I will discuss because within an hour's time I can't justify covering everything. So mostly in the taxes also I will cover the GST part, and this is a part of the module this financial management. As madam has introduced, I did not again introduce myself. So I am basically I am an electrical engineer with MBA and other qualifications. I am a certified PMP from PMI US and become PMI India champion in 2016, and I am also a certified Lean Six Sigma black belt, and many other credentials are to my credit. So let us now stop the subject about this This we are talking about the taxation. So most of you know I need not cover much of the thought on this part introductory, but taxation is a compulsory financial charge. Means that is not like optional or any donation, like it is a compulsory financial charge payable to the government. The government here may be central government or state government, and this part of the tax they collect primarily for the purpose of various projects, initiatives and public spending. The collection of the taxes are very essential. Coming to the Constitution of India, there is Article 265 talks about basic taxation purpose. No tax shall be levied or collected except by authority of law. Means unless there is a constitutional provision thereby act is enacted, then no tax can be collected. So following this Article 265, then another article talks about 246 it talks about the taxes which can be collected by the union, means central government, and the state government. And there are, in the Schedule 7, there are 3 lists are there. One is called union list, the other is state list, the third one is concurrent list. Union list means only central government can collect the tax. State list means only state government can collect the tax. Concurrent means both. Union list, for example, service tax, excise, GST now, IGST and CGST also comes under the union list. Earlier, of course, this GST was not there in the Article 246, but later they amended the constitution. They brought the 246A, therefore GST also incorporated. So basically these are the taxes. Unless there is a provision in the constitution by act, no tax can be collected. That is the basic. And there is a structure of the taxes in India. There are direct taxes and there are indirect taxes. Direct taxes are directly paid to the government by the individuals or the taxpayers, like businesses also, as in the form of corporation tax and property tax and taxes on assets. All these are direct taxes. Then there is indirect taxes. Indirect taxes, for example, like this excise duty, service tax or purchase tax, VAT, sale tax, all these things are indirect taxes. Indirect taxes, generally what happen, the taxpayer he himself is not bearing, but he is collecting from the third party. Means, for example, when you are selling any goods, you are collecting the tax from the buyer, means customer, and whatever you are collected, that amount of the tax you are paying to the government. So indirect tax is generally collected from the customers or third party, whereas direct taxes goes from your pocket or company's account. So in the direct taxes, of course, I will not cover much of the income tax related because my focus will be on GST. So, but briefly I will share what are the income tax provisions. Income tax, as I told you, there are two types of, like on individuals there is a tax, income tax, and also on the corporates, as in the form of corporation tax. On individuals, again, some notice is coming. What it is? Okay, on individuals, there is a three types of individuals are there classified. One is up to 60 years of age, and the other category is 60 to 80 years of age, and third category is above 80 years age. Accordingly, some tax benefits are given to the senior citizens. And here the slab rates, these are the broadly slab. Of course, I am sharing this PPT, therefore there is no need for talking all the details because the time is short. We will go directly. But broadly, the individuals are classified into three categories: below 60 years, and 60 to 80 years, and 80 years. And the different slab rates are here for the financial year 2020. You can't control the shared content. Here some message is coming, popping up frequently.
What is that, sir? Like, can you just read?
Annapurna Talluri is requesting to annotate the shared content. What it is, I couldn't understand, but frequently it is being popping up.
Sorry, sir, that was pressed by mistake. You can please continue.
Okay. Okay, so this is about the income tax on the individuals, and of course there is some conditionalities are there attached. This is the about. Then we come to the corporate tax. Corporate tax, again there are two categories. One is the domestic, and another is foreign company, foreign corporate. So in the domestic corporate, we'll talk domestic corporate, including, for example, partnership forms, or including LLP also. The tax rate is 30%, and a surcharge of 12% is applicable on total income exceeding 1 crore. Then there will be education cess 4% on income tax plus surcharge. On aggregate of income tax and surcharge, 4% education cess is applicable. Then local authority also similar tax structure. Then there is a cooperative society. Earlier there are staggered slabs are there, but now they made uniform of 22% plus surcharge 12% if the income exceeds the 1 crore, and education cess again 4% on income tax plus surcharge is applicable. There are certain concessions also available on this. Then corporate tax on domestic companies, means it is company now. It is 30% if the turnover is above, means that gross turnover or receipt are about 400 crores, then the tax will be 30%. And if the turnover is not exceeding 400 crores, then there is certain reduction is there, is the 25%. And further there are certain concessions are given, lesser rate of corporate tax. For example, there is a 15% also available. This 15% is available only subject to condition that new unit is set up. It is for entirely for new unit, new manufacturing facilities, because to encourage Make in India and boost the manufacturing facilities, this concession is given, means only 15%, as against say up to 400 crores it is 25%, or above 400 crores it is 30%. Instead of that, they made it 15% only for the new upcoming manufacturing facilities. Of course, it has to come, the deadline also given, it is 31st March 2023. Before that, if you start any manufacturing facility, you will be entitled for this, subject to some other conditions also. So these are the tax rates. Apart from that, there is surcharge also there, and education cess also there. The conditions to that facilities of lesser rate is, these are the conditions. 3 notes are there. And then for the foreign company, it is 40%, and then surcharge also applicable, 2% of the total income exceeding 1 crore, and 5% where the total income exceeds 10 crores. Then education cess also 4% is applicable on income tax plus surcharge. So this is what we are talking about, the corporate tax and income tax. Then generally the question arises, because we are representing to the Women's Association. So generally the question arises whether women entitled for any of the concessions now, means in comparison to men, any better concessions or more concessions are available or exemptions are available. Sorry to say that at present there is no concessions as far as income tax is concerned, means there is no discrimination for the men and women. Earlier there was certain benefits are extended to women. That was till 2011 and 12 financial year. Later on, this facility is withdrawn, means effective from 2012-13 financial year. This facility of extra concessions or some discriminatory benefit given to the women are withdrawn. So now, as far as income tax is concerned, there is no such concession or extra privilege given to the women. But certain other facilities are still continuing. For example, stamp duty. The stamp duty, certain states are giving up to say 2% benefit, means lesser stamp duty amount rate to the women. Similarly, property tax also, there are certain states, because it is state subject and local authorities, so they are giving certain benefit to it. And then lower interest rate, yes, if the loans are taken by the women and there are certain benefits are extended. For example, State Bank of India offering 0.05% basis points concession to the women. So these are how some benefits, but on income tax there is no benefit. And also I am coming next chapter is about the GST. In GST also there is no separate treatment or any beneficial treatment for the women. Means all are now equal in the law. Again means with in respect of income tax and GST, there is no gender discrimination. Now coming to this budget 2020 for startups, of course there are certain benefits extended, and this is earlier the startups has a tax holiday for 3 years. From these 7 years earlier was there. Within the 7 years, any of the 3 years you can select. I mean, say block of 3 years. But now the 7 years is extended to 10 years. Means in a period of 10 years, any 3 years block you can adopt for the tax holiday. Means you need not pay tax. Then also the turnover, earlier that limit was that 25 crores, but now that increased to 100 crores. So this is the one of the major change for the startups given this benefit. Then I am going to the indirect taxes. Direct taxes, small portion I want to just cover, but my major aspect is about the indirect taxes. Their GST I will cover. Now GST is more than now almost reaching. We are for the third year. Once the July 1st reaches, we celebrated the third year of the GST. Suppose you set up any of the organization for manufacturing or service or trading or any organization. First important essential is establish an organization. Either it is a proprietary nature or partnership, or it may be limited company. Very other options also there. You can set up first the organization. Then obtain PAN number is a mandatory for doing any business. Then bank account, of course. Then coming to the GST registration. Of course, the GST registration is mandatory if the certain threshold limit is crossed. But within that limit, below that threshold limit, you need not be registered, but subject to certain conditions are attached. We have to discuss all those things, when you need to register, when you need not register. Then coming to the GST, most of people you are known that GST has replaced most of the taxes, central taxes as well as state taxes. Central taxes like excise duty, service tax, additional duties of customs means CVD, and special additional duty SAD, all these things are being subsumed into GST. Similarly, state taxes like VAT, CST or purchase tax etc. also subsumed. Now it is become a single taxation system. That is what it is, single umbrella taxes. Earlier there was 17 taxes and 23 cesses. All those things now come under one umbrella, that is GST. GST was introduced in year 2017, effective from 1st July. The advantage is, major one advantage is, it removed the cascading effect of the taxes. Earlier, for example, a manufacturer charges a central excise duty over and above aggregate of assessable value plus excise duty, VAT or CST is being collected. The traders who are buying, for example, they are not entitled to take the SENVAT credit, that is input tax credit, now we called it, that is not entitled earlier. As a result, on tax also they are paying and observing as a cost. It is a cascading effect. They are not allowed to take the input tax credit. Means that time it was SENVAT credit. SENVAT credit is not allowed for the traders. So, like this, there are many examples of cascading tax impact is there. So, as a result, the add-up costs are passed on to the customers. Second aspect, there are multiple taxes and every state has its own VAT. VAT is a state subject, and every state has its own VAT and varying of rates for the same commodity or item. Different rates are there in different states and different formalities and formats also there. So there is a need to unify across all over India, to bring all the taxes into one simple taxation system. So GST was introduced with this ambition of simplification. Hello, there is some noise. Yeah. Then also the GST brought in a greater benefit of digitization. In GST, everything is under online only. There is no paperwork is now, hard paper or hard copy submissions are allowed. Everything now made digitalized. That is the greatest benefit. Means transparency is ensured here. Then for the introduction of GST, there is a need for certain amendments in the constitution, because earlier there was Article 246 which envisages exclusive powers for the state, that is under the state list, and exclusive powers for the center, that is union list. Like that, there is exclusive powers are there, but GST when it is introduced, it is like a dual taxation on the same event. Both center and state has to levy the tax. So earlier provision of this constitution doesn't permit levy of the both state and center on the same event, because earlier these are exclusive provisions are there, state provisions and center provisions, but now with GST both has to be levied on the same event. Therefore, it is needed to amend the constitution. So Article 246A was introduced. Similarly, for enabling the interstate transactions, Article 269A was introduced. Then there is a council they formed, because earlier we have bitter experience about the VAT. It is a state subject. Every state has its own authority, therefore the tinkering around. So to prevent it, now a council is formed. Council is an authority for recommendations. Only based on the recommendation, legislation can be done by the union or by the state. Without the constitutional council's recommendation, they have no authority to do so. So that is where they prevent undue tinkering by the state governments or others. It will not be now permitted. So that is how the benefit of this Article 279A council has formed now. As per this, there are 5 acts was enacted, because without any act, no tax can be collected. We have seen in Article 265. So there needs a act. So there are 5 acts. 4 are central acts and 1 is state act. SGST means state GST is a state act. Each state has to legislate the act. All others are like CGST, IGST, UTGST and State Compensation Act. All these 4 are central acts. So all the 5 acts are being enacted. So therefore GST become enforceable. Now understanding GST basic, fast I will go little bit because time is very short. So let us move fast. GST is as I told you, it's multiple taxes unified into single taxation system. And again it is a multi-point taxation system, means every point of supply tax will be levied, and also it is a value added tax. What is mean I will show in the next slide. Then it is a destination based tax, means the destination state or the consuming state will enjoy the revenue, not the originating state. And it is a dual taxation system, and in fact we have adopted this from the Canadian model. Canada and Brazil are the 2 countries in the world before India. They were adopted this type of dual taxation system, and India is adopted most of the things from the Canadian model. So we are also taking the dual taxation dual levy system. Dual levy means on the same event both state and the center can levy the tax, because we believe in the federal governance. So state also independently have the authority to collect the tax. Now the supply is the basis for the taxation, means that the event for taxation is supply. What is that we will understand in the subsequent slide. Then time of supply means point of taxation. Then place of supply, that determines the nature of supply, because it is intrastate or interstate. To decide it, we have to understand place of supply. Means within the state, for example, we are selling, then there are two taxes is applicable, that is called intrastate. Two taxes are applicable. One is CGST, means central GST, and the other one is state GST, SGST. So if it is the interstate, means from the different state, from Hyderabad to, so for example, you are selling to Vijayawada, these are two located in two different states, therefore it is interstate transaction. In the interstate transaction, IGST is applicable. So the place of supply is very important to understand the nature of supply, means whether it is interstate or intrastate. Then there is a transaction value. Transaction value is nothing but is that the transaction with which, means what of the price we charging from the customer is the transaction value. For example, we are selling at 100 will be the transaction value. On the transaction value, tax will be applicable. But here certain conditions are there. If a related party, then this condition is not applicable. Transaction value is not applicable. Then we have to refer to this valuation rules. Otherwise, in normal conditions, if it's unrelated person, both are the seller and buyer are unrelated, then the transaction value is applicable. Means what of the seller charges, that is treated as a transaction value. Based on the transaction value, on that tax will be applicable. Means GST has to pay. Then another very good aspect of the GST is seamless credit. In the entire value chain, seamlessly credit is allowed. Means whenever you are buying any product, you pay the tax. Whatever you pay the tax, that you can take as a tax credit. Means ITC, input tax credit. And that input tax credit you can adjust towards your outward supply, GST applicable. Then again we discuss about the taxable person. Who is the taxable person and what is the registration, also briefly we will discuss. Before going just as a layman approach, just let us understand you are a taxable person. Taxable person means who is registered with GST, he become a taxable person and he is supposed to collect the tax for all his outward supplies unless it is exempted, etc. So a taxable person purchases, for example, certain inputs or input services like raw material, packing materials, consumables or other services he is purchasing. Then he is also using those inputs, he is making the outward supply. The outward supply in such case, for example, is taxable under GST. Then he will be entitled to take the credit of the taxes paid on input or input services. He is entitled to take the input tax credit. Means he pays the taxes to his suppliers, that tax amount he can take as ITC, input tax credit. This input tax credit can be adjusted when he is liable for paying the GST and on the outward supply. So on the outward supply, what is his liability, he can adjust this ITC. So that is what simplistic mode of telling you, just as a layman approach. Now further I will tell you detail. Suppose that there is a supplier and there is a recipient, and supplier is supplying the goods or services and the supplier is collecting GST, and for example it is 100 rupees then GST rate is 5% for example, so 5 rupees, the total invoice value will be 105. These charges, what are the tax is charges, mean GST is collected from the recipient, that amount the supplier will pay to the government, that 5 rupees in this case he will pay to the government. So what are the tax collected from the supplier, this customer, that amount the supplier will pay to the government. Suppose the recipient is a trader and he is also further supplying the goods to another customer for example, and there he is taken the input tax credit, because he is entitled to take the input tax credit, as I explained in the previous slide. He is entitled to take the tax credit. His invoice value is 105 less ITC, means input tax credit, because he is entitled to take that credit. So his cost become now 105 minus 5, so 100. So value addition is 50. For example, he want to sell the goods at 150. His cost is 100, his value addition is 50, so he will be selling the goods at 150. Then again, for example, at 5% rate of GST, the GST comes to 7.5% and total invoice value will be 157.5. Now what of the tax is collected from this customer, the same tax amount he has to pay to the government, because indirect taxes, as I told earlier, what of the tax he collects from the customers he has to pay to the government. So here 7.5 is collected, that will be paid to the government. But what happened is, he is paying 7.5 to the government, but he is taken credit of 5 as an ITC credit, that has to be reduced now, means net amount is only 2.5, is not 7.5 but 2.5, because input tax credit he has taken 5, so net tax payment is 2.5. This 2.5 only going to the government now. Clear? Now the next I will explain you with some supply chain example. Mean there are chain of supplies are there, not like a single transaction, but chain of supplies are there. For example, like this, a garment manufacturer is manufacturer, and before that he has garment manufacturer is buying fabric and fabric manufacturer is buying yarn. So this is chain of yarn is supplied to fabric manufacturer, fabric is supplied to garment manufacturer, after the garments it is sold to the end consumer. So in this transaction supply chain, a chain of supplies, how the GST transaction will be, I will explain, so that it is one slide you can understand very clearly about the GST. As I explained in the beginning, that the supplier is making the supplies through invoice. In invoice he is collected, say 100 is basic value, then 5% is tax, then total invoice value is 105. This is going to the fabric manufacturer as input. Because it is input, he is entitled for the ITC, so he takes the credit of 5. So his cost become now 105 minus 5 is 100. Now the value addition, for example, he has added some 50 rupees value addition, so it become 150. Then it is again 5%, 7.5 is the tax amount. Total invoice value is 157.5. He is collecting 7.5 from the customer, means here the garment manufacturer, and whatever he is collect he has to pay to the government, but he has taken a credit of 5, therefore it is less 5, 7.5 minus 5, then it is 2.5. This 2.5 is nothing but, you see the what is the value addition? The value addition here is 50. So if you apply 5% on the value addition, it comes to 2.5. Means GST also a value added tax. GST also a value added tax, means on the value addition only tax is been paid. Clear? Similar this analogy, which will now go to the next step. The fabric is purchased as an input by the garment manufacturer. And then again the similar analogy here, the tax supposed to collect from the customer is 10.5, but credit is taken is 7.5, then net tax payment to the government is 3. This 3, how it is arrived? Again on the value addition, for example here is 60, on 60 5% is comes to 3. So that is how this taxation, how it will works. Means it is a GST is a value added tax, only on the value addition tax is been collected. Now we are going to the next step. In the final is consumer, means garments are purchased by a end consumer. Now whether he will be entitled to ITC, it will not be. It will not be, because ITC is not allowed, because there is no furtherance of business. The ITC is allowed, the condition for the ITC is there should be furtherance of business and there should be tax collection. I mean, these two conditions supposed to satisfy, because the end consumer has no furtherance of business. Also he is not able to collect any tax from the customers again, therefore he is not entitled to take the credit. So it become a cost to the customer and consumer. From this slide, what we understood is GST is a multi-point taxation, means every point of supply there is a tax. This is the supply and there is a tax, and again there is a supply, then again tax, again there is a supply, then again here a tax. So each point of supply tax will be collected. Then just now I explained to you, it is a value added tax. It is a value added tax, only on the value addition tax will be collected, as I explained to you here. The third point is seamless credit is allowed as long as there is value chain. Means furtherance of business with tax collection is there, then n number of transactions if you do also, you can take the credit. Means here you are taken a credit because you have a furtherance of business with tax payment, and similarly here you are taken the credit because you have furtherance of business with, he is entitled to take the tax credit. His invoice value is 105 less ITC, means input tax credit, because he is entitled to take that credit. So his cost become now 105 minus 5, so 100. So value addition is 50. For example, he want to sell the goods at 150. His cost is 100, he value addition is 50, so he will be selling the goods at 150. Then again, for example, at 5% rate of GST, the GST comes to 7.5% and total invoice value will be 157.5. Now what of the tax is collected from this customer? The same tax amount he has to pay to the government, because indirect taxes, as I told earlier, what of the tax he collects from the customers he has to pay to the government. So here 7.5 is collected, that will be paid to the government. But what happened is, he is paying 7.5 to the government, but he is taken credit of 5 as an ITC credit. That has to be reduced now, means net amount is only 2.5, is not 7.5 but 2.5, because input tax credit he has taken 5, so net tax payment is 2.5. This 2.5 only going to the government now. Clear? Now the next I will explain you with some supply chain example. I mean, there are chain of supplies are there, not like a single transaction, but chain of supplies are there. For example, like this, a garment manufacturer is manufacturer, and before that he has garment manufacturer is buying fabric and fabric manufacturer is buying yarn. So this is chain of yarn is supplied to fabric manufacturer, fabric is supplied to garment manufacturer, after the garments it is sold to the end consumer. So in this transaction supply chain, a chain of supplies, how the GST transaction will be, I will explain, so that it is one slide you can understand very clearly about the GST. As I explained in the beginning, that the supplier is making the supplies through invoice. In invoice he is collected, say 100 is a basic value, then 5% is tax, then total invoice value is 105. This is going to the fabric manufacturer as input. Because it is input, he is entitled for the ITC, so he takes the credit of 5. So his cost become now 105 minus 5 is 100. Now the value addition, for example, he has added some 50 rupees value addition, so it become 150. Then it is again 5%, 7.5 is the tax amount. Total invoice value is 157.5. He is collecting 7.5 from the customer, means here the garment manufacturer, and whatever he is collect he has to pay to the government, but he has taken a credit of 5, therefore it is less 5, 7.5 minus 5, then it is 2.5. This 2.5 is nothing but, you see the what is the value addition? The value addition here is 50. So if you apply 5% on the value addition, it comes to 2.5. Means GST also a value added tax. GST also a value added tax, means on the value addition only tax is been paid. Clear? Similar this analogy, which will now go to the next step. The fabric is purchased as an input by the garment manufacturer, and then again the similar analogy here, the tax supposed to collect from the customer is 10.5, but credit is taken is 7.5, then net tax payment to the government is 3. This 3, how it is arrived? Again on the value addition, for example here is 60, on 60 5% is comes to 3. So that is how this taxation, how it will works. Means it is a GST is a value added tax, only on the value addition tax is been collected. Now we are going to the next step. The final is consumer, means garments are purchased by a end consumer. Now whether he will be entitled to ITC, it will not be. It will not be, because ITC is not allowed, because there is no furtherance of business. The ITC is allowed, the condition for the ITC is there should be furtherance of business and there should be tax collection. I mean, these two conditions supposed to satisfy, because the end consumer has no furtherance of business. Also he is not able to collect any tax from the customers again, therefore he is not entitled to take the credit. So it become a cost to the customer and consumer. From this slide, what we understood is GST is a multi-point taxation, means every point of supply there is a tax. This is the supply and there is a tax, and again there is a supply, then again tax, again there is a supply, then again here a tax. So each point of supply tax will be collected. Then just now I explained to you, it is a value added tax. It is a value added tax, only on the value addition tax will be collected, as I explained to you here. The third point is seamless credit is allowed as long as there is value chain. Means furtherance of business with tax collection is there, then n number of transactions if you do also, you can take the credit. Means here you are taken a credit because you have a furtherance of business with tax payment, and similarly here you are taken the credit because you have furtherance of business with tax collection. So no tax will be allowed at the end consumer end, because there is no furtherance of business. And also if the outward supply is exempted, then also there will not be any tax, this ITC, input tax credit. So now we understood about the basic, how the tax will be collected at GST, briefly in a layman's approach. Now step by step we will go. The principles of GST is, one is event for taxation. The event for taxation in GST is a supply. Then what is the supply we will discuss in the next slide. Then it is a destination principle, as I already told you. Whatever the tax is collected we are paying, it is actually going to the destination state. Destination state is a consumption state. For example, a seller is selling the goods to the from the Hyderabad to Vijayawada. and the tax is collected here in Hyderabad, but actually the tax component will go to the Vijayawada because it is interstate transaction, IGST. A 50% go to the central government, as 50% goes to the state government. Here the state government is Vijayawada, means this is Andhra Pradesh. So that is how this concept of GST. Then it is a value added principle I just we discussed. On value addition only tax is levied. Multi-point taxation also we have discussed, and seamless credit also we have discussed. It is a destination state, it's a destination based taxation system, as I already explained to you, right? Now for example, within the state you are selling any goods, within the state there is a supply, then there will be two taxes are levied. One is central levy, that is CGST. The other is state levy, that is called SGST, state GST. So these two taxes are levied. In case instead of state there is a union territory, then instead of SGST, UTGST is collected, union territory GST. So this is for intra-state transaction, means within the state transaction. Suppose it is a interstate transaction, then IGST will be collected. It is central levy, but IGST once is collected, it comes to the common pool. From there it is divided. 50% goes to the central government and 50% goes to the destination state. Right? So we had to discuss about these four aspects of the GST. One is taxable event. As I told you, taxable event is a supply. What is supply I will discuss. Then when the tax will be collected or leviable is depends upon the time of supply. Then place of supply, I told you that place of supply determines the nature of transaction, means whether it is intrastate or interstate. It is intrastate, then CGST and SGST. If it is interstate, then IGST will be applicable. Then transaction value, I told you, if it is the transacted parties, means the buyer and seller are not related, then transaction value means what of the price he is collecting, means the supplier is collecting from the customer, that become the transaction value. On that tax will be levied. If it is related party, then the valuation rules will be applicable. There is separate valuation rules are there. So these are the basic fundamental about the GST, how it is applied. It is applied only when there is a supply. If there is no supply, then no tax will be applied, because event for taxation is supply. So that is what now we will discuss about what is the supply. Supply means either goods or services or both, which has been supplied during the course of business, and the conditions are mentioned here. One is the first condition is all forms of supplies for a consideration is a supply, means supply, to qualify as a supply there should be consideration. Consideration means money. For example, there are two types of consideration, the monetary and non-monetary, but fundamental to understand basically as a layman, like for example you are selling a goods to a customer, you are collecting money from a customer, that is a consideration. That money part is a consideration. So consideration is a mandatory requirement. If there is no consideration, then there is no tax, because it is not qualified as a supply. If there is no supply, there will not be any tax. For example, you are giving a free of cost a sample or any gift you are giving to other person, then you are not collecting any monetary or non-monetary forms of consideration from the customer. In such case, it will not treated as a supply, therefore no GST is applicable. Means for the samples and for the gifts there will not be any tax. And the second aspect, very important, we have to understand here is about the even though there is no consideration, in certain cases, for example, you are making a branch transaction transfers. you have a branch in Hyderabad and a branch in Vijayawada in two different states, but both are being registered because GST is a state based registration. So both are registered separately under GST. One is in Hyderabad under Telangana registration, the other one is Vijayawada in AP registration. Both are being registered, and now you are supplying goods from Hyderabad to Vijayawada, then it is required to collect the tax. Even though you are not collecting any consideration, no monetary transaction happens between the branches because it is one and the same company, legal entity. Even then, because it is a related party, then because of the distinct person also been called, because two registrations are there, these are called as a distinct persons. Transaction between the two distinct persons is treated as a supply. Therefore, once it is supply, means even for taxation is supply, therefore tax will be collected. Clear? So I will not deliberate much on this part because some more subjects are there. So supply we have understood. The consideration, this I will talk to you about. Taxable supply, what are the conditions? One is the supply for the consideration must be there, means there should be consideration, then only it is qualified as a supply. Then it should be in the course or furtherance of business. That business condition has to be satisfied. It is in the course or furtherance of business. Then the other one is the supply is made in the taxable territory, means within India, including Jammu and Kashmir also comes part of India. Earlier, before GST, for example, other taxes are not applicable in Jammu and Kashmir because of that is separate act is there, separate constitutional provision is there for the Jammu and Kashmir. But in GST, what happened? Jammu and Kashmir also become part of GST now. So when we are talking about taxable territory, means entire India including Jammu and Kashmir is a taxable territory. I mean, wherever the transaction happens, it should happen within India, not outside India. That is the meaning. Now the entity must be registered. When it has to be registered, I will tell you in the next slide. And it is non-taxable supply. Non-taxable supply means there are, for example, alcohol is there for human consumption. In Telangana, of course, it is very famous. The 1/3 of the revenue comes to the Telangana government from the liquor only. So liquor is out of GST. It is not in the GST. So in such case, it is not treated as a supply for that. Similarly, 5 petroleum products like crude, petrol, diesel, ATF means aviation turbine fuel, then natural gas. These 5 products also out of GST at present because there is no GST applicable in these goods. The earlier provisions of the taxes continue to apply. So these are called non-taxable supplies.
Sorry for the interruption, sir.
Yeah, tell me.
A quick time check. We still have half an hour time left to end this session.
Okay.
In another 20 minutes, we will break for Q&A session. Kindly continue, sir.
Okay, fine, no issue.
Okay.
So next we are considering about the registration. Once your threshold limit is crossed, what is threshold limit? Again I will tell you. Once your threshold limit is crossed, then you are supposed to register under section 22 of the CGST Act. So the registration, once you register, there is a 15-digit registration. That number will be 15 digit. First 2 digits are state code. For example, in Telangana, it is first 2 digits of state code is 36, and in Andhra Pradesh it is 37. In Tamil Nadu it is 23. Like that, different state have different codes. The first 2 digits related to the state code, followed by 10-digit PAN number, because GST is now a PAN based registration. Without PAN you can't go for the registration. Because of PAN registration, entire ecosystem is developed, including the banks, including your transaction with any of the businesses, including this customs or DGFT or any of the banks. All these are now interrelated. So the through the PAN. So it is a PAN based transaction, means registration number. Followed by the 13th code. 13th code is a optional code actually. Within the state, for example, you want to take additional registration, additional business, you want to take additional registration, then this option can be opted. Then 14th is a blank code. 15th is a logical or system code. It is a secret code, it is not revealed. But 14th is a blank code, it is JUD always, and it is for the future use. At present it is a blank, means JUD, it is shown as a JUD. Now this threshold limits I am talking about. The threshold limit is 20 lakhs. If your turnover is crossing 20 lakhs, then under section 22 of the CGST Act you are supposed to register. And in certain states the threshold limit is reduced to 10 lakhs. In Telangana, for example, it is 20 lakhs, but in northeastern states or in Himachal Pradesh it is 10 lakhs. And similarly, there is a compulsory registration required. For example, you want to make a transaction between two different states, then it is interstate transaction. Whenever you are making interstate transaction, there is a compulsory registration required, irrespective of means threshold limit. Irrespective of your turnover, you have to take the registration. Similarly, you want to transact with e-commerce like Flipkart or this Amazon or Snapdeal, you want to supply to them, then you have to take the registration. Also the operators of the e-commerce like Amazon, Flipkart or Snapdeal and other thing, they also has to take compulsory registration. Interstate transaction, compulsory registration. Clear? Now there are certain exemptions to registration are there. For example, you are into the business of vegetables, you are into business of fruits or dairy products like milk and curd, or certain exempted goods, then registration is not required even though the transaction value in turnover is crossing the threshold limit. Even though your turnover is 100 crores or 1000 crores, but those are been exempted goods, therefore you need not take the registration. So that is under section 23 of CGST Act. 40 lakhs turnover threshold is increased for only goods only in certain states, but in Telangana it is not applicable. We continue with 20 lakhs threshold only. This facility is given an optional basis to the states. Some states are opted. For example, Andhra Pradesh is opted. There for goods, for example, transaction, then the turnover can go up to 40 lakhs. Up to 40 lakhs means below 40 lakhs you need not take the registration. Above 40 lakhs you have to take the registration. Then GST's rates are applicable based on the classification. There are two broad classifications are goods, another is services. One is the goods, another services. Goods are classified as per HSN code, means there are categories of goods. For each of the category there are certain codes are there. These codes are universally common codes like HSN code designed by the World Customs Organization, WCO. They have organized, and throughout the world up to 6-digit level it is uniform all over the world. And India also being a signatory of WCO, we also adopted HSN codification. It is already practicing for long years. In excise it was their same codification, and in customs it is continuing with the same codification. But in GST again we are taking the same codification. Based on the same codifications, items are now classified and accordingly the rates are been fixed. The rates, prime rates are 5%, 12%, 18% and 28%. And there are also certain other rates are there, like for example exempted, then nil rate. In diamonds and stones, either polished or unpolished, then it is 0.25%. In case of ornaments like gold and silver ornaments, then it is 3%. So these are the rates for the goods. Then there is a rates for the services. Services are codified based on the SAC, Service Accounting Code. SAC means Service Accounting Code. And again there is a prime rates 5%, 12%, 18%, 28%, plus there is a nil, also certain services are nil rate exempted. So this is how the rate based on the classifications. Some examples like that I am showing to you like this. These are some examples of the HSN code corresponding that rates also. And again through broadly two notifications, one is for the goods, the other for the services. Some of the items are exempted. For example, for the goods, the exempted items like that, for example, are rice, wheat, agriculture items like this, and vegetables, fruits, dairy products like milk and curd. These are been exempted through notification. I am showing this 2/2017, and from time to time this notification also amended. Similarly, for services also certain categories of services are exempted through this notification, and from the time to time again this is amended. Now we are understood about the exemptions also, we are understood about the taxes also. So these are some of the items, for example, exempted items. These are some exempted items. Now we will go to the combination supply. There is a concept called composite supply and mixed supply. Composite supply, very simple, I will tell you. Composite supply, for example, you are entered into an agreement with a supplier to supply the goods at your factory premises, for example. Means supplier from his godown or his factory, he will supply the goods to your premises. Here the transaction, there is various transactions are involved. One is the movement of the goods. The goods itself is been sold. So goods plus for the movement of the goods till your factory or premises, transportation is required. That is another supply. One is the goods supply, transportation another supply. Third one is, for example, insurance also taken by the supplier. Then there are three transactions are there. The three transactions have three different rates are there. For example, the goods attracts 12%. The transportation generally takes on the RCM basis 5%. Then insurance is 18%. Now the three rates are there. For example, he has agreed for the selling at your place, for example, 10,000 rupees. Then what rate he has to collect, whether 5% or 12% or 18%? There is a confusion. So the government is eliminating this confusion. He is telling, if it is a composite supply means these are naturally bundled, which cannot be separated, and it goes in conjunction with other. Means always it goes together. For example, another example I will give you. Suppose you are traveling in Shatabdi or you are traveling in Air India. They are giving the food. Here the two transactions are involved. One is travel. Travel means you are taken ticket for the travel, but additionally they are given the food also. There another transaction happened. Two transactions are there. Means two supplies are there, but one single price. No transaction means railways will give, I don't want to take food, so reduce the price. They will not reduce because it is single price. But two supplies are there, but both are go together. There is no, we can't separate it. In such case, it is called as a composite supply, means naturally bundled, and it is goes in conjunction with the other. Both are go together. Then it is called composite supply. In case such composition supply, the prime supply will be what of the rate on the total value. This prime rate is applicable. Means the, for example, I have taken the goods supply, goods, then transportation and insurance are there. Three supplies are there in there, but three different rates. But because it is a composite supply, the prime supply is a goods, because you wanted the goods, that is your prime supply. Therefore, here the goods supply, whatever is supplied on that, whatever the rate means 12% is applicable on the 10,000 rupees per the transaction value. So in the composite supply, on the prime goods or prime supply, what are the rate? The same rate is applicable on the transaction value. Now coming to the mixed supply, for example, there gift pack is there. In the gift pack, there are three items are there packed in one gift. one gift pack. 3 items are there. One is pen, another is watch, and another is wallet. The 3 items are there. Wallet attracts 5%, pen attracts 12%, then this watch attracts 18%. So the 3 different rates are there, but these 3 are not going together always, because there are no natural binding, and it will not go always together. Therefore, these are called as a mixed supply. In case of mixed supply, the highest rate is applicable, means it is 18%. The 18% applicable on the total value of the packet. For example, the packet is 5,000. On 5,000, the 18% is applicable. So that is how the mixed supply. Mixed supply means highest rate is applicable. In case of composite supply, on the prime supply, what is the rate? The same rate is applicable. Clear now? Now let us move to the other, because time is short. One more concept is there. It is a composition scheme. It is very beautiful scheme, and allowed for the suppliers of the goods originally, but later they extended this to service suppliers also, means service providers also entitled. Here the advantage of this scheme is, it is very simple in the sense, you need not maintain much of the documents, you need not make the returns also very frequently, only annually once one return has to be made. You need not maintain much of the records, like what is the input tax credit, what are the taxes, and all these things you need not maintain. Very simple records, very simple one return per annum. Earlier it is quarterly return, that is GSTR 4, but now it is made into annual return. Only once in an annual you have to file a return. The condition for this qualification is your turnover, in case you are into the goods supplier, then your turnover must be less than 1.5 crores. Then you will be entitled for this type of benefit. The second one is, later they allowed the supply of the services to the extent of 10% of your turnover, or maximum of 5 lakhs. Then also you are entitled. Here a single rate tax is applicable, because you should not collect any tax from your customer, but you have to pay tax on your turnover base. On annual basis, you have to now make the turnover. On turnover basis, you have to file the tax. That is now for the manufacturers and traders, it is 0.5 plus 0.5%, means CGST 5%, 0.5%, SGST 0.5%. Total is 1%. If it is a restaurant, then 2.5% plus 2.5%, total 5% has to be paid on the turnover base, not on the each transaction wise. Means you should not collect any tax from the customer, you should not take any credit also, but you have to pay tax, a simple tax, only on turnover basis. 1% for the manufacturers and traders, 0.5% for the restaurants. In case of services, this is introduced from the effective from the April 1st 2019. The turnover is below 50 lakhs, then you are entitled, and here the tax based on the turnover again 3% plus 3%, CGST 3%, SGST 3%, total 6% you have to pay. So this is about the composition scheme, but composition scheme has attached with many other conditions also there. You should not make any interstate transaction, means always the transaction will be within the state. And other also there, you should not sell the exempted goods or non-supply goods, like alcohol or petroleum products or diesel, petrol, all these things, you should not sell it. And like this, there are certain conditions are there for this composition scheme. Otherwise, it is very simple scheme, very less of returns filing, less of records keeping. Now the reverse charge, just one aspect I will tell you, because this is again a bigger chapter, I should not deliberate much. Now this RCM is applicable. For example, there is a transporter. Transporter will not collect any tax from you, but you have to pay tax on the reverse charge. Means here in the reverse charge, the supplier will not collect any tax. The recipient has to pay the tax on the transaction value. So that is the basis. One example is transportation. The transporter will not collect from you for the services he is providing, but you had to pay tax on the reverse charge. So this is one example. Unregistered earlier was there, but now you are buying from unregistered, then the buyer need not pay any tax now on reverse charge. Earlier this condition was there, unregistered, but now not is there. Reverse charge we have discussed. Now the just brief about the ITC, because ITC provisions are very important. What is the eligibility conditions for the ITC? As per the section 16 of CGST Act, now it is applicable ITC. ITC is allowed only for the registered person, means to avail the ITC you should be registered. You must be registered under GST. And it is intended that what are the input or input services are intended to be used in the furtherance of business. So that is very conditions applicable. If the outward supply is exempted, then ITC is not allowed. And of course you have to maintain certain documents. On the documents only we will be entitled to take the credit. One of the document is the invoice. Based on the invoice where the tax amount is shown, then that amount of the tax you can take as a tax, means ITC. Similarly, debit note you can take ITC, self invoice you can take ITC, on import bill of entry basis also you can take ITC. So ITC, there are certain documents are prescribed, only those documents, 5 documents are there, only based on those documents you are entitled to take the credit. Of course you have to pay to your supplier within 180 days you have purchased, you are entitled to take the credit on the tax whatever you have paid. But the condition is you have to make the supplier payment within 180 days, otherwise you are not entitled to take the credit. So that is also one of the condition for the taking the credit. Now the utilization part, how to utilize, because I told you whatever the ITC you have taken, you can utilize this ITC towards payment of the outward GST. How then? Because there are 3 types of GSTs are there. One is CGST, then SGST, then IGST. So the 3 types are there. How to utilize? The first condition is here, whatever is there outward tax payment, first IGST liability you utilize, first ITC complete it. Means first you utilize the ITC, whatever the credit is there, for the payment of either IGST or CGST or SGST, whatever may be the liability for the payment, first utilize ITC, this IGST credit only, IGST credit utilize. Then if it is a balance is means not enough, then other credits you can utilize. Either of them is your choice, CGST or SGST, either of them you can utilize. But again here condition, CGST credit cannot be utilized for the SGST liability. Similarly, SGST credit cannot be utilized for the IGST, means CGST liability. So these should not be utilized. These are like A group and B group, like blood groups. Different blood groups are there. You can't mix up. Like CGST and SGST can't be mix up utilization. Then payment, briefly I will come, and we have come to the conclusion, like concept is overall being clear once payment is complete. Payment, if once you are registered, you become a registered person and you are able to see in the portal, GST portal, all your transactions. There are 3 ledgers are there. One is called credit ledger, or cash ledger. Electronically in the portal you can see means GST portal. If you go, you can see there are 3 ledgers. One is cash ledger, another credit ledger, another liability ledger. Cash ledger means it is simple, like you have a bank account. In a bank account you have deposited certain amount, for example, and that amount is your amount, your money. You can utilize whenever it is required. So once you are deposited in a cash ledger, that cash ledger amount can be utilized for the payment of tax, payment of penalties, payment of interest, payment of late fee, and any other payment also you can do. Or if anything still excess is there, you can withdraw also, means refund also allowed. So that is about the cash transaction, cash ledger. Then there is a credit ledger, because we told you once you purchased, the tax has been paid based on the documents I told you. There's a tax invoice, debit note, or bill of entry. Like these 5 documents are there. All these documents, whatever the tax is paid, you can claim on self-declaration basis. Once you have filed the returns on self-declaration basis, you can claim the credit. Once you claim the credit, that credit amount will come to the credit ledger. This credit amount only can be utilized towards tax payment only, no other payment. Like you should not pay for the late fee, you should not pay for the interest or any penalty like that, you should not pay anything. It is utilized only towards payment of tax. The credit can be utilized only towards payment of tax. Now the liabilities, once you have the liability for the outward supply and there is credit in your ledger, what is the balance, all these things can be seen in the liability ledger. So this is about the payment. Then finally I am coming about the returns filing, because once you become a taxable person, you are liable for filing the returns even though your turnover is 0. Even though your turnover is nil, you have to file the nil return. So broadly there are one return is called GSTR 1. All the registered persons who are registered under this, they has to file the this GSTR 1 under section 37. Other than of course this composition scheme and IST, they have to file the return. If the turnover more than 1.5 crores, then they has to make every month by 11th of the subsequent month they has to file the return. If the turnover is less than 1.5 crores, then they has to file on quarterly basis. The other one is GSTR 3B. GSTR 3B, it has to be filed by 20th of the following month. It is nothing but like a summary statement. All your liabilities, all your credits and net payment, all this thing has to be declared on self-declaration basis and pay the tax. So this is how this GSTR 3B. In case of composition scheme, then we have to go with GSTR 4. And these are the like quarterly, monthly and all these things. Then there is an annual return is there called GSTR 9, that is the annual return. And there is if your turnover is there is a audit requirement also there. Then audit requirement as per the GSTR 9C. Once your turnover is more than 2 crores, there is a GSTR 9, that is annual return, that is you have to file. And GSTR 9C, it is an audit report. The auditor will audit, then he will give you file, CN file, then has to be filed in this year. So this audit is required only when your turnover is above 2 crores. Coming to this returns filing, recently because of the coronavirus situation, COVID-19, there are certain relaxations are been given. The interest, this late fee is being abolished now. There is no late fee for if you are delay the returns filing. GSTR 3B, for example, they have given up to 5th of the next month, another month. Means some extension of 15 days they made. It is supposed to be made by 20th of the following month, but next month 5th up to 5th it is been extended. That is some 15 days around, say, relaxation is given. So that is how all about the GST. Briefly I covered from the starting with what is the GST to legislative provisions to then supply, then what are the various provisions are available like ITC, then various types of composition scheme, then this mixed supply and compound supply, and all these things we have discussed, and ITC also we have discussed, returns filing we have discussed. So this is how the because it 1 hour we can't justify much more because it's a very large subject. So I am now concluding it, and I am available for question answers. Before that, just I will tell you, if you want any further readings, I have my YouTube, and this is my YouTube channel, and you can see n number of YouTubes are there, more than like around 70 YouTubes are there, on import and export, GST and various other topics. And further anything you require also on these subjects like import and export, GST, contracts or project management or Lean Six Sigma, all these things, you can contact me. This is my contact details. So now I am available for question answers. Please.
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
We have some questions from the participants.
Yeah.
Rumi Ghosh is asking threshold limit for West Bengal state.
Okay. West Bengal, just I will show you, because there is only few states they are not opted for the 40 lakhs threshold, but all other states are opted. Telangana is not opted for this. Then I'll see just Arunachal Pradesh, Manipur, Meghalaya, this one. Okay. In if you are West Bengal, then whether you are into the services means it's continue with 20 lakhs threshold. In case of goods, then it is a 40 lakhs. And it is goods means purely goods, no services. Then it is 40 lakhs.
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
And next question we have is from Manisha.
Mhm.
Sir, is GST applicable for agriculture or horticulture products post food processing or packaging?
Yeah. Okay. And here, as per this exemption notification, that's for the goods 2/2017. As per that, which is a primary agriculture, not processed, but primary agriculture goods like fruits, vegetables, rice, wheat, all these things are exempted from the tax. Again, coming here, some condition is there. For example, rice you are selling, but under the brand, then 5% tax is applicable. For example, it is a Ashirwad Atta. There is a little bit processing is there, for example, then tax is applicable. Cheese, for example, tax is applicable, but milk is got no tax, because those are prime products like they called it. So those are no tax because exempted, but it is a processed one. Then we have to see what processing has been done. I told now atta, for example, is tax is applicable, but if it is gehu, for example, wheat, then no tax is applicable. So like that we have to see. And of course in GST portal also, if you can see, you can understand what is the tax applicability. Next.
And one more question by Amrita. Sir, I saw handloom written as exempted in a slide, but actually khadi, hand spun, hand woven is exempt. Isn't it so? Because handloom sari and fabrics mostly uses yarn and colors produced by machine, which are got by paying GST.
Yeah.
Please clarify, sir.
Yeah, handloom, again there is a large list is there, because now immediately I can't bring that list. As per the list, most of the handloom products also exempted, but some of them of course is taxable at 5%. That what is the handicraft, that is called not handloom. Handloom is part of the handicrafts. In the handicrafts products, most of the handicrafts are been exempted, but you're true that some of the handlooms are being charged with 5%. 5% tax, but exact item unless we know, because I told you to class means understand the rate of the taxes, we have to understand what are the HSN classification, means that goods description, based on that goods there is a HSN classification, so accordingly the tax is applicable. So most of the handlooms, as you write, it is a 5%, but some of them it comes under the 0%. Handicrafts, that category is there. What else comes under the handicrafts category, then its exemptions are there, some of the goods, but we have to specifically understand what is the item. Based on the item, tax is applicable. We can't generalize and tell all the agriculture products is exempted. Exactly, we can't say like, so there are certain things also taxable. So what is an exempted? Even processed goods also, for example, basic bread, for example, is exempted. Even though there is a certain processing is there, like that curd is, for example, there is processing is there, for example, something, milk also there is a processing there, means because that is pulverized and all thing. So there is certain exemptions are there. We have to see the exemption notifications. Generally we can't say. If anything you required, of course I am available in the night 8 to 9 o'clock for the public services only. Always, every day, anytime you can call me 8 to 9 in the night. Anytime 8 to 9. That 1 hour I am dedicated for the public service. So anybody has a specific queries and all things, they can call me and discuss.
So I request all the participants to note down sir's email ID and contact number. So whenever you have any doubts regarding taxes or GST, you can contact him, as he said, has he given the specific timings. So next question, sir, we have is like, sir, can you tell us about the monthly filing of GST and who should do it? I think you have already explained it,
Yeah.
sir, through slide. And next is Bhargavi P. Sir, is it mandatory to file GST monthly through CA, that is Chartered Accountant, or else can we manage ourselves?
Yeah, very good question. Of course, if you can't manage, of course, consultants are there. That is why the consultants they role. But if you can manage, of course, it's good. It's very simple also. Government is given provision. You yourself can do it. Only when you not able to do, you opt for this some others consultations. Chartered accountant, or there are many other people also there. Tax consultants, advocates are there. They are also doing. You can take the consultation, but you can yourself also can do. But it requires certain means basics to understand. And coming to this monthly and quarterly and other thing, to understand very simple. GSTR 1 is one return. If your turnover is less than 1.5 crores and you are not a composition scheme and you are not a IST and another registration is there, if these two are not there, then only you are entitled for this type of filing, GSTR 1. And in the GSTR 1, if your turnover is less than 1.5 crores, then you can opt for, it is an option again. You can go for the monthly or you can go for optional quarterly. Quarterly at the beginning of the financial year, you can go for the quarterly, for example. You continue with quarterly. If any in between you want to come to the monthly, you have to come with the specific options. So, if it is a turnover is less than 1.5 crores, then you can opt for the quarterly return filing. And more than 1.5 crores, you have to go with monthly return filing. This is GSTR 1. GSTR 1 means outward supplies. Only your outward supplies, whatever there, that declarations you have to make. That is a GSTR 1. Then coming to the GSTR 3B, this is a combined return filing, means it is summary return filing. In the summary return filing, all the summary of your liability for the outward supply tax and what are the credit and balance liabilities, everything you have to declare self declaration. Then you have to file it. This filing also monthly you supposed to file it. And now because of the coronavirus, 15 days relaxation is given. Means 5th of the another month. 5th of the another month is given. Yes sir, somebody is talking about Gupta ji. Okay. Okay, this is how this one. And if you are opting for the this composition scheme, then earlier it was quarterly return, but now they made is a annual return. Means annually once you have to file the return. But of course quarterly payment of the tax has to be made. CPM 08, that is a return filing, means that is not a return actually, that is a declaration through which you are making the payment of the tax. Tax payment is continuing with quarterly, but annual return is there for the composition scheme. Okay. So this is a brief about this return filing, but various other returns also there. For the example, IST, then e-commerce, like the different types of taxpayers are there. For them, different return filings also there. But these are the most common return filings. Yes, madam.
And One more question: is GST applicable to online training and consultancy services? This is by Mrunmai.
Mhm. And for the education institutions, there are certain exemptions are given. Education institutions includes, for example, any board exams. Related to the board exam, for example, you are conducting some courses, for example, intermediate, 10th standard, like that. It is board exam. Then for that services, that GST is exempted. Similarly, for university, certain recognized courses, including IIM courses, then GST is exempted. But coming to the online, because the online is now new mantra for learning, so it is a compulsion. But we have to see this whether this online is included in the recognized courses or not. As far as the recognized course, for that it is fully exempted. Means for the recognized courses, if you are conducting any of the online teaching tools, then on that what are the fee you collect, that is exempted. But you are a coaching center, for example, but it is not for the recognized courses. In such case, GST is applicable. In such case, GST is applicable.
Hello, sir.
Yeah. Tell me.
Yeah, one more question from
Yeah.
Borempuri. What is the GST applicable on handmade cosmetics?
Madam, you see, these type of things are very difficult because there are thousands of items are there. I can't remember and recollect. But if anybody wanted, ask them to send me this small description of the item, so that immediately I can give to you them. But also it is available in the system, in the GST portal. If you go and you can search it very easily, simple write the description, it will come the HSN code, accordingly that rate also will be exhibited.
And one more startup, one more thing. Avail the startup incentive. They have. Is it must that they have to be registered after 1st April 2016? People who are registered, like one of the startup was registered in 2015. So can she avail that tax holiday?
Tax holiday, actually there are certain conditions are attached. The details, whoever wanted, let him contact me, because we have to understand fully. Simply on the oral, like we continue, there are conditions are there. All the conditions whether satisfied or not. Based on that, I can give the answer.
Okay, and one more, they're asking about is GST applicable on COVID-19 masks?
Mask is, yes, it is applicable. In masks also there is a demand for quite some time by various NGOs, then various parties, manufacturers that demanding, but the government is categorically refused. So on masks the GST is applicable. They refuse to exempt, because if it exempted, then the import will become more cheaper than domestic manufacture. That logic, of course, who has understood the concept, then they can understand. Whenever there is an exemption is there, you can't take the, I told you can't take the ITC. Means on the raw material you can't take the credit because it is exempted. But when it is imported, that import also a part of IGST is exempted, then imports become much cheaper than your domestic products. So considering this aspect, government is decided not to exempt these masks. So they are continuing to tax. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, sir. There are a lot more questions they're asking. So what I suggest is, sir, please share us that contact details slide so that everybody notes down your contact details. So all the participants, we are running out of time. So I request all of you all to note down the email ID and the contact number of Panigrahi sir, so that you can contact him directly to get elaborate information on whatever questions you have. So thank you, sir. Thank you so much
Thank you.
for your insightful session. That was very informative. You have given great knowledge about GST. That was very, very informative. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. But most of the participants I am seeing that they are very hungry now. There is hungry of two types. One is to gain the knowledge, another to fill the stomach. Okay, both are now time. Let us start this
Yes,
off
sir.
this one. Okay then. Thanks a lot. Thanks to all the participants.
Thank you so much, sir. Thanks for your time. So thank you all the participants. I one more request. I hope everybody have got your